I wasn't concerned about him, but I was just like, you haven't been acting yourself, and he is okay to then open up and talk about his problems and, you know, what he's going through emotionally.
He cried at our wedding, and I was really surprised by that, because I don't think I'd ever seen him cry before.
How I feel I should be as a dad and as a man to my son is that, like, I want to be present for him at every single moment that I can. Like,
he wasn't prepared for it, and I could see he was kind of getting quite emotional, and I just thought that was so cool to see that.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Middle Ground podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Rhys White.
And I'm Olivier Nicholas.
So, in this episode, we're going to talk about what it feels like to be a modern day man, which I'm sure we've got a lot to talk about on that subject. But before we dive into that, we are giving out something for free, completely for free, okay? The Middle Ground method. So if you check out the link on our YouTube and you chuck in your email on the link, you get a ton of free stuff from ourselves. Things for me would be kind of like a training program, a recipe book, a video showing you exactly how to get started to kickstart start your health journey. What would you provide, Olivier?
So we're going to provide you, I'm going to provide you with how to deal with setbacks. So every career has setbacks. It's just a case of how you deal with them and how you bounce back from them. We're going to talk about failure and how you can reframe failure, and you're going to be able to develop your growth mindset, which is going to teach you how to actually learn things, right? To show that as humans we can learn things rather than sort of skills being innate and just sort of within us from day one.
Yeah, nice. We get a lot of stuff for free, right? Yeah, it's not bad.
We're not charging.
No, we're not charging. We're not charging. No, so it's all completely for free. So, yeah, you've got nothing to lose, basically. Yeah. But, right, so let's get straight into this episode. This is something that I feel like I deal with on a regular basis, just purely because I am a fitness coach for men.
Yeah.
I've got 20 plus guys on my program at the moment, and it's not like this topic comes up, but you could conversations happen, and you could see that there is a little bit of confusion in terms of what they feel their role is in this modern day world, society. But based on how they feel, but also maybe expectations from their partners or families or anything like that. And it is an interesting one because I feel like the role of the man has changed so quickly in society. Like, it wasn't that long ago where the man was like the provider, that didn't show any emotions, just kind of cracked on with things, did things in silence, toughness. But now it's kind of very quickly changed to a man where, you need to be connected to your emotions, and it's okay to say that you're struggling and, get emotional about things. And the two are complete opposite sides of the spectrum kind of thing. So I can see why there is maybe guys out there who are struggling to find the identity with a modern day man, because I'm sure they're moving with the times, but not a lot of men find it easy to open up or connect to their emotions. And I think that's where the kind of confusion happens.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting is that, like, my perception of masculinity, I'm sure that a lot of people feel this way, came from my dad. And I always thought that, and it's, the idea of the provider figure that you've talked about is absolutely true. And the emotions things, I always used to think that my dad didn't have any. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there was like, I don't know, like and actually he was surprised when I said this to him the other day. I told my aunt about this. She was surprised because it's her brother. And I was like, oh yeah, I always saw him as like an authoritarian figure. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah, because I didn't really see any kind of break of character. It was like the male role model character, no emotions, but sort of I knew what I had to do and all sort of thing. But then it was only about maybe a year or two ago. In fact, actually, no, it was 3 years ago. He cried at our wedding. And I was really surprised by that because I don't think I'd ever seen him cry before.
Yeah.
You know, and he was like, you know, he was, because he did a speech and he wasn't prepared for it, and I could see he was kind of getting quite emotional, and I just thought that was so cool to see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To have that kind of like that break of character, as it were.
Because that almost reflects how, you know, my relationship with my own dad as well, exactly the same way, that he, you know, there was a time where he was like, Rhys, you know, you got to get a good job so you could provide for your family, right, and all that kind of stuff. He can be a very quiet guy. He doesn't really talk about his emotions, but if you get him in the right environment, like me and him went to Edinburgh not long ago. You know, we were just in the pub, and I was just like, you know, I wasn't concerned about him, but I was just like, you haven't been acting yourself, and he is okay to then open up and talk about his problems and, you know, what he's going through emotionally.
What, so you gave him permission, you mean, to kind of like...
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Like, but I know my dad can connect to his emotions, and he's happy to talk about it, but you really got to, you know, dig into it. You know, it's very rare that he kind of openly shows it.
Yeah.
And so I suppose, like, with you and your dad, when you saw your dad open up and cry, which sounds like it doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's a great thing, but also, are you kind of thinking, why haven't I seen this side of you more?
It's a good question. I mean, maybe, but then I sort of think back to kind of, you know, when I was a kid, and did I need that side of him? I don't know. Maybe at moments I might have done, but I think because I'm so used to how things were, that it's hard to sort of like almost think retrospectively in that sense. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel like me and my dad had a different relationship growing up to how we have one now. Like, I was definitely, in the beginning, it was very much like dad child. Like, you know, I was quite a naughty kid. I did a lot of stuff that I shouldn't, and then I would be pulled up on it, and it was like this sort of, you know, I don't want to say transactional, but it was like, do you know what I mean? It was very much like, you know, kind of keep me in line sort of thing. Now we have a completely different relationship. Like, I'm really, really open with him. We have, you know, right, like proper heart to hearts, and I consider myself incredibly close with my dad now. So do I wish that I'd seen some of that before? No, I don't think I do, because I think I probably needed to be kept in line when I was a kid. So it kind of served its purpose then. And I'm really thankful that has evolved into what it has become now, which is a really kind of awesome thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the way my dad raised me as a kid is completely different to how our relationship is now. Yeah. And I don't know whether that is because the times have changed, or whether it's just a natural relationship between a father and son that kind of just grows as you become an adult. You tend to appreciate your dad in a different way, and when you have you know, deeper conversations. But then again, that might be where the confusion lies, because I think men these days feel like they have to. They have to take a lead almost take a step back at the same time, and be strong, but also be emotionally connected. It's kind of I suppose it's trying to find the balance, right? Yeah. And I don't know about you. It's just like now obviously talking about our dads. Now I'm a dad.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
It's need reminding or anything.
But it's like the way you think does change, and you know, as soon as Luca, I set my eyes on Luca and I found out it was a boy. You know, thoughts were going through my mind. I'm like, wow, like how am I going to raise this my son into this world and be a good role model and keep him safe, or just so much thoughts are going through my head. Obviously, it was the best day of my life, but it does not scare me, but worry me about this modern day, because maybe it's kind of outpacing me a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know about you, but when we were playing as kids, we used to meet up in the park with our mates, and then like, you know, we used to like MSN, you know, and you know, taking 3 days to download movies on LimeWire. Do you know what I mean? Like, life was fairly slow paced, and then mobiles came along, and now it's kind of like, what world is Luca going to be in when, and how the hell am I going to try and keep up with everything? What's going on? You know, what's going on then? And would a definition of a modern day man completely change by the time he becomes a teenager or adult? I don't know. It's very confusing.
And then with that, do you feel like, would you want to stay current? Like, I mean, how much does what is going on in present day impact how you parent Luca, do you think?
Again, I'm going to go back to my dad. He was definitely the kind of like the hard worker. He works very hard, you know, and he did well to get the job that, you know, he used to work in. But I think that was his kind of like main role, was just to work hard and provide for the family, but almost to the point where, you know, and it's nothing bad for him, but like when he did come home at 7:30 p.m. or 8 p.m, he'll be absolutely exhausted, and then only get a small 1 hour, 2 hour window of him, and then he's back to work again, and then he's come back exhausted. That's kind of like, during the week, that's kind of how I remember my relationship with my dad. I'm not saying it's his fault at all. He was just doing the best that he could to provide for the family. But what that's done for me now, as in like how I feel I should be as a dad and as a man to my son, is that like I want to be present for him at every single moment that I can. Like I think that's one of the best things that being self-employed has brought to me, is that I can be flexible with my time and help out with Luca when I can, but also when I do come home after a long day's work, that's why I am like phone away. I want to give Luca dinner. I want to put him to bed. I want to play with him. I want to be so involved with him and so hands on with him, not in a controlling way, but I'm just like,
it's like quality time, right?
Yeah, I don't want to be coming back exhausted, still thinking about work, watching TV or looking at my phone and not being present for my son, because he's not going to be this age forever. And I think, you know, that's one thing that's really stuck with me from our childhood, is that's the man I want to be for my son. It's just to take in every moment, but also just to let him know that I'm there and you know, he's got my full attention.
Yeah. What advice would you give Luca as a, let's say we fast forward, right? And he's hit like puberty or whatever.
Oh man.
What like just right now, what advice springs to mind?
You know what? That's such a tough question. I feel like even now I'm still trying to figure it out. Do you know what I mean? Just being a dad now, and people assume you know what you're doing, but like they ask you questions. I'm like, oh no, like I don't know. Like, I'm just winging it a little bit. But okay. So as a teenager, if he's a teenager, I think the main thing for me is just to be true to yourself, and disrespect people in a way that you would like to be treated or respected, essentially. I think that those are kind of like my values, and I think once you got those values in place, then everything else will kind of tick over a little bit. So, but again, I have no idea. That's kind of what I have in my head, and just being true to yourself, but also don't be scared to challenge yourself and push yourself outside the comfort zone and try things, even if it means you might fail. I think those are the things I would like to push on them, but I just don't know. To be honest, like, it's a good question. I literally have no idea, and again, I have no idea what's going to happen in the future,
and it might change as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like, I mean, I remember when I was very young, and like I said, my dad used to tell me off a lot, and I wasn't that naughty, but I was definitely a bit naughty. And I remember one of the things that he instilled into me forever was this idea of being as self-dependent as you possibly can. So that, you know, I remember when I went to, there was like an album, I forget which album it was that came out, a band that I really liked.
Yeah.
And I wanted to buy the CD the day it came out. Didn't have any money. My friend lent me the money. I bought the CD, took it home. My dad was like, "How did you buy that?" And I was like, "Oh, I borrowed the money off Rich." He was like, "Go and give it back, you know, and give the money back," sort of thing. The reason I'm saying this because he didn't actually have to try too hard to instill these values in me. Yeah. So it's like this, you know, where does that fit into the kind of modern man thing? Is like I was sort of learning that as I was growing up, because his values were being passed on to me. Because if your values are so important to you, you live them day in, day out, and you live and breathe them. So people are going to get that because it's going to emanate off you. People are going to pick up on it. So if you're raising a child and you're living your true values, then your kid's going to grow up with those. You know what I mean? And he might decide at one point that's not for him. That's for him to decide. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But also I think then... Okay, so I think it was quite easy to pick up our dad's values, and you know, I'm very similar to my dad in many ways. But now it's like with social media, it chucks into the equation, and you get all these influencers, and you know, all the guys making the headlines at the moment, like Andrew Tate, Donald Trump. You know, they're not nice guys. You know, how do they have an impact on people's values, or or how they see the world, or how they feel a man should be? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's more of the stuff I'm like, I don't even know where.
That's difficult, man, because like, I mean, yeah, like Andrew Tate is a fucking cancer on society, and Trump isn't much better. But like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you're around enough stuff that kind of gives you the right idea of what being good, what being humble looks like, I would like to think that being exposed to the Andrew Tates, being exposed to the Donald Trumps would kind of hopefully just wash over. Do you know what I mean? And it would hopefully create more anger at the fact that that's happening, rather than there's a danger that they might go that way. I mean, I don't know. Andrew Tate's a funny one because like he does seem to get under the fingernails of a lot of young men. But and I find it baffling that he can do that, to be honest with you. I find it genuinely baffling.
I don't think it's as bad as maybe people think. Like, he's getting all the headlines because he's a loud guy. He's got big opinions, which, you know, I disagree with pretty much all of them. But do you know what I mean? But he's getting the headlines because he is the loud person in the room. Yeah. But that doesn't mean he's the strongest person in the room, right?
Far from.
And yeah, exactly. But because he's getting all this exposure, then people worry that, you know, kids are going to get brainwashed. But I really just think that is such an extreme of of how kids growing up will see what a man should be. But actually, I do think majority of guys are just trying their best, and they are nice people. Like all my guy mates, all of them are just really nice guys, and I don't know anyone who's that much of a dickhead. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not basing it on my friends. That's obviously not accurate, but it's just like I don't think it's that like is as common as we think. I think most men are just nice guys. They're trying their best and just trying to figure out the world as it is at the moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, it's does this kind of topic pop up with your clients when you're dealing with them as a life coach?
I mean, the topic doesn't pop up like directly. Like it's not like, it's a bit like, I don't know, a slight tangent for a moment, but like I deal a lot with people who suffer from imposter syndrome, right? But people won't ever say, I suffer from imposter syndrome. They'll say things like, oh, I struggle making decisions because I question myself too much. But they're essentially describing imposter syndrome. So like relating that to what you're asking me, like, do I ever have people talking about these instances? No, but you can see it. You can see it in the way that they are and in what they say and their views on things. Like, so, you know, there's one guy that I'm working with, great guy, and he has this sort of enormous sense of wanting to provide, you know. And so a lot of what we do is to facilitate that journey for him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like he's going, oh, you know, society has said that men should do this and that's what I'm doing. But you just see it. You can feel it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's I think it's probably something that will over time be phased out a little bit, because I think things are changing. I think Gen Z are helping to sort of, you know, skew things in the other direction a little bit. But there's the trouble with kind of trying to change things is that you still have things like, for example, like the gender pay gap, for example, is still a big thing.
Yeah.
So if we're trying to change the model where society no longer sees the male as the provider, and we want to shift it into a more a healthy balance, then we need to fix the gender pay gap.
Of course,
so that can. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like, I don't know, you're sort of trying to swim upstream with like a 40 kg dumbbell attached to you.
Yeah, that'd be tough. I've done it before. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and but I think you're right. Like once that changes, then that I think that would have like a massive impact, because again, just even though I've got clients of it, it's mostly about getting them in better shape and health and fitness. We do talk a lot about of things outside of fitness, and I think a lot of guys just feel like they're just drowning. I think it's a good word. Like they're working extremely hard. They're trying to be a good partner. They're trying to sort out the bills. They're trying to be a good father, and you know they're trying to work on their health, and they feel like they're doing so many things that they feel slightly kind of like unsupported, and that they're never doing enough. And so sometimes it just takes a conversation with me, and I'm just like, it sounds like you are doing a lot. Yeah. It sounds like you are trying to do everything perfectly or give 10 out of 10 for every single thing that you've mentioned. But have you communicated this to your partner? And they're like, no. I'm like,
Why would I talk about my feelings?
Yeah, but it's just like, I don't think they're thinking, I don't want to talk to my partner because I don't want to talk about my feelings. I just don't think it even crosses their mind.
Right, because it's so ingrained.
Yeah, and I'm just like, have you told your partner how much you're, you know, what you're going through and how much you feel like you're drowning right now and you're stressed? They're like, no. I was like, well, why don't you? Because if you don't talk about your feelings, how is she ever going to know? And I think it's then a good opportunity for you to almost set boundaries so you can maybe free up more time to focus on yourself or to reduce the stress, or she could take a little bit of burden off you, you know, and help out, and you could help her out in other ways. I think it really comes down to kind of like communication, right? And well, first of all, expressing your emotions and that you are struggling, which is nothing wrong about whatsoever, and then you can come up with solutions. That feels like a conversation I have with my clients on a regular basis.
Really?
I'm just like, have you spoken to your partner? Have you spoken to anyone about this? Or you know, when's the last time you made time for yourself? And a lot of time is like, can't remember.
That comes up a lot actually for me with my clients. Is the idea of actually knowing how to organise your time, because people don't seem to realise actually how much time they have until they organise it. Yeah,
and I do think like if you've got a loving partner, that if you do express how you're feeling and what you're going through at the moment, like of course they're going to listen to you and try and help you out as much as you can. Well, you'd hope so anyway.
Yeah.
But on the kind of other side of it, there has been cases where, you know, my clients have spoken to their partner and, you know, told them about they're struggling, and they get told to man up. You could argue that is
that's tough.
Yeah, that is super tough. Like that's a bit of a knock in the teeth, to be honest, isn't it?
It's a step backwards.
Yeah, exactly. And that might be a relationship issue. No idea what's going on with that. But I think it also shows that it's not just men trying to figure out what identity they have in this modern day world, but like other people have an idea of what a man should be as well. And if that conversation happened and the partner obviously had her opinion on it in a certain way, then what hope does he have? If he's trying to become a modern day man and talk about his emotions, that's something that also needs to be addressed. It's like, what do other people? How do other people see the modern day man? Because it's not an even playing field as well in that aspect.
I'd actually be keen to hear what the viewers think about this and see what they think the definition of what a modern man is or should be. So I'd love to hear that in the comments below. And don't forget to grab your copy of the Middle Ground Method as well whilst you're there.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and it's completely free. All you have to do is just chuck in your link. Click on the link, chuck in your email, and you get all that stuff sent to you. But no, I appreciate you guys listening.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.